California Games was one of only 5 games available when the Atari Lynx first launched in 1989. For a lot of Atari Lynx owners, this game is considered one of the classics on that system. To some, it's considered to be the best version of this game, which is saying something considering the fact that this game came out on several different platforms back in the 80s. It was on almost everything. It's also one of the earliest examples of an extreme sports game, predating Tony Hawk by about a decade. So in this video, I'm going to break down each of the 4 minigames: BMX, surfing, halfpipe, and footbag, also known as hacky sack, while showing a playthrough of each. Then I'm going to come back and give my overall thoughts on the game and whether it is worth playing today. First up is BMX. This minigame is a bit different here than in other versions of California Games. Instead of the usual side-scrolling view, you get an isometric view. This does take a little bit of time to get used to, as it is easy to run into stuff by accident. That being said, this perspective does give off a neat pseudo 3D vibe, which was probably pretty cool for 1989. Also, let's talk about the controls. In order to go forward, you have to hold right on the D-pad. If you want to steer, you want to go in an upright diagonal motion to steer left, while down and right diagonal makes it steer to the right. It takes some time to get used to, but it will click after a while. A is to do a regular jump, which is helpful for dodging some of the obstacles. In order to do flips, you press B, and this is the main key to scoring in this one. The more flips, the better, but you have to land them in order to get the points. If you can do a double flip in the air, even better. There is even a possibility of front flipping, but I've never been good enough to do those consistently. Some players can even start a backflip but then have the bike hit the top of the hill, particularly the front wheel, and then that causes the bike to go forward. That'll get you lots of points if you can pull it off, but I've never been able to do it consistently. So there's a lot of depth here. This one probably has the most depth of all the mini games, and it is one of my favorites overall. Surfing is the next game, and it is definitely a fan favorite. Usually people like this one or BMX the most, and I feel the same way. It screams out California for sure as well, more than any other mini game here. I think this one's also the easiest to get into of the 4, which works in its favor. You only have one button to worry about. You use A to start your run, left and right to turn, and then hold A whenever you're turning to make a sharp turn or spin quickly while in the air. The main objective here is to score points by spinning in the air as much as possible before landing. In order to get into the air, you need to build up some speed first. Once you've done that, then you can ride the waves and launch into the air. Once you're airborne, you'll want to hold A and spin in a particular direction to spin fast. The key here is to land at the right angle to avoid wiping out. You'll need to be able to judge how many spins you can pull off at a time. Do not overdo it when you don't have the speed going out of the wave. The best I've been able to do is a quadruple 360. But it is possible to land an even better Unreal 360. I've seen it before on YouTube. Also, whenever you land successfully, you'll gain more speed, so keep that in mind. You only get 3 tries, so once you wipe out 3 times, it's game over. This one is a lot of fun and easy to pick up and play overall. Halfpipe is up next. I think this is the most misunderstood minigame. I've noticed in the past that some people have a hard time grasping how to play this, but here's how it works. You press A to start going down the halfpipe. As you're going down the ramp, you hold down on the D-pad to start building up your speed. When you're going up on the other side, you hold up. When you're about to go into the air, you can press and hold B to do a grab trick, but I don't recommend this because you're going to be better off doing spins in the air in order to score more points and build up speed faster. While you're in the air, you press and hold A to do a spin, which will score you points. Just don't hold A for too long. When you're landing, you'll hold down, then you'll let off near the middle, and then you'll hold up again when you're going up on the other side. Do another spin in the air, and then you'll come down, and then you'll hold down once you land. The key here is to get into a rhythm. Also, the better you execute what I'm telling you, the higher you'll go into the air, and the longer you can spin in the air, gaining you more points. By the way, don't tap the directions. Always hold up or down. That's the mistake I used to make. It does have the steepest learning curve of any of the games on here, but once you start getting used to it, it becomes very satisfying to earn a good score in this one, especially a clean run. Like surfing, it's 3 tries and that's it. It's quite rudimentary compared to, let's say, Tony Hawk, that series, but this was from a simpler time, and I think it's still a solid mini game today. Footbag, more commonly known as Hacky Sack, is the final game featured. Of all the mini games here, this is the one that I never really got into back when I first played this game, or even now. I don't find the actual activity here particularly interesting, but for what it is, it does play well. I think this one would be a lot more fun in 2-player mode than solo, just because you can press B to trip the other player. Unfortunately, I don't have anyone else to play this with. But anyways, the purpose is to keep that sack in the air in order to score points. You press A to hit the sack whenever it's at your feet or your head. The more consecutive hits you land, the more points you'll score. You can move left and right. You can also press down to turn around. If you do this between hits while the sack is in the air, you'll get extra points. So there is a bit of a trick system going on. My favorite thing about this game is being able to hit the small bird that flies above you. That gives you extra points as well. Overall, it's not my cup of tea, but I know some people love this one and consider it a favorite. It does have good controls and good graphics going for it. Nothing fundamentally wrong per se, just not my thing personally. So what do I think of this game overall? I think it's one of the best games on the Atari Lynx, and one of the finest handheld games of this time period. And while I haven't played every version of California games, this is definitely my favorite out of the ones that I have played, and it's not even close. While it may not have all of the mini games featured in other versions, quality matters a lot more than quantity. No duds here. The graphics are nice and colorful, fitting the California theme perfectly. The waves in the surfing game look so cool for the time. It didn't push the scaling a whole lot compared to some other games on the system, probably because it wasn't all that necessary, but scaling is used pretty well on the Halfpipe minigame, for example. Even the music is great. The Halfpipe song might just be the best song that I've heard in a Lynx game, and I played a lot of the best games on the system, so I would know. The surfing theme is also iconic as well. There's even a bit of a homage to the famous 60s song Louie Louie for the title screen that sounds great. The biggest positive here though is the way it plays. There are no control issues at all with this game, and with the exception of maybe the Halfpipe, it's pretty easy to figure out how to play each minigame. This game used to be bundled with the Lynx at one point, and that was a good decision back then. Granted, if Atari would have been able to make more good decisions and had better distribution for the Lynx, this game might be remembered today on a similar level as the Super Mario Land series or Tetris in terms of early handheld classics. However, that is sadly not the case, like many games stuck on failed consoles. But that is going to be it for our California games on the Atari Lynx. Definitely worth playing, and even if you don't have a Lynx, this version is available on Steam and the Nintendo Switch nowadays thanks to Pixel Games UK. So what do you think of this game? Did you own an Atari Lynx back in the day? If you did you own this game? Or did you play a different version of this game back in the day? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.